Hi there folks, this is Koiro with another video. This is a really annoying thing. I actually recorded this. This is the second time I record this. Last time the sound was not getting along with me. And this video is not a part of a series or anything. I just reached out to a fellow Commodore enthusiast that had a machine that was not working. And I offered to repair it for free, just for parts and the freight charge as usual. And he sent it to me, and this is the video where I repaired that. The video is in 3 parts. The first part is the simple fault finding process. In the second part it's about putting it all back together, and the third part is about the power supplies that he had. He had an original white brick, and he also had an OEM aftermarket power supply that I tested in my simple bench setup. And I also talk a lot about PLAs, because when I started out again after a 10-year pause with repairing Commodore 64s for about 4 years ago, I saw some YouTube videos and I heard a lot about failing PLAs, and I actually stocked up on some stuff to making PLAs and read up about that. But very disappointingly, I have not seen a single PLA failure. I do have some missing PLAs in some of the motherboards that I repaired way back, so I actually have used some of the stuff that I bought. But where everyone else seems to desolder the PLA when it's a black screen, I often find that the PLA stays on the board when I do that kind of repairs. I don't know what it is, if all my PLAs are in the process of dying and I have just kept them alive by sheer chance. I don't know, but at least in Norway it doesn't seem as the PLA fails as often as it does other places. But let's not get ahead here. Just move around to the bench, and this time we are at the bench behind me where I normally do Commodore 64 stuff. So let's just dig in. This time I'm doing a repair for a common retro enthusiast. This is something that I got mailed, and inside here lurks a C64 that presumably has a dead screen, a black screen I mean, and he also sent some power supplies so that I should see that there is nothing wrong with the power supply that has caused this damage. So I'm just going to unwrap this and put this on the bench. Done some good packaging. I have to pack it. This is a white brick power supply, kind of used from 87, not the old one. I'm going to measure out this and see if it has some sign of weaknesses. And we have this one that is a modern replacement PSU that you say that you recently bought. And this is a retro power PSU, and they have covered all bases with having both the 5-volt connections connected together with the ground. Yeah, we will look a bit more into this. They also have some menu and stuff here. I'm not sure what that is about, but they have made this pretty serious cable with just connecting like so. It's probably possible to use this with other Commodore machines as well. That's why they have used this loose cable. Lot of packaging, and the computer itself is newer version C64. You can see they have the print on the front that might be a 466 motherboard, and it looks in good condition. There is something loose, could be packaging, could be other stuff. Made in Hong Kong, not a good sign. I'm going to tidy up a bit, and I'm going to try to take this apart. I have lots of lights in here, but the camera still seems to be a bit weak on the light. There are 3 screws. They appear to be original. No warranty sticker though. Yeah, not using my trusted cable driver. It fits nice with these screws. Not a strong magnetic drive though. There was the 3 screws. There are some plastic threading on them, so they might have not been out much before, but it's possible to make them thread every time if you don't put them the right way in. No broken tabs around here. And this has a keyboard screw. This is a machine threaded screw, 3mm. Yeah, kind of a lot of dust. Remove the keyboard connector, and I try to shake the keyboard. No, not the keyboard making noise. It could actually be that the keyboard was rattling, but I don't think so. It sounded like something smaller. You'll see this is a 466 board. 466s actually are my favorite C64 board, and it do have all the thermal tabs in place, and it doesn't seem to have been opened at all further in than this. So we start by removing the keyboard brackets. The keyboard brackets actually are held in place with screws that is common to fastening the board to the bottom. And it was designed, I found the culprit that was loose. And I do think I know where it's from actually. Because the keyboard just had 1 screw, and this is a 3mm threaded machine screw, so maybe the owner just opened this and looked inside and forgot to put in this screw. That could be the reason. Someone toss away these shields, but they actually do quite a good job of spreading heat from all the chips inside here, so I tend to keep them. And especially if there are some cooling pastes and that the chips, the tabs here are touching the chips. Polarad. Should move away. I have to clean this a bit. And what do we see inside here? Yeah, quite the normal stuff. The only socketed chips in here, the SID chip from us and the VIC chip, VIC2 chip. Every other chip is not socketed. And that probably means that there has been no service made on this board in the past. So I'm going to use some my compressor and blow this clean. But as it's Sunday I mean, I do have to wait some hours because I don't think the neighbors will appreciate that kind of noise this early on a Sunday. The difference between the earlier C64 and this design is that you only have 2 memory chips instead of the 8 that was on the original design. And also the great simplification that they have done around the VIC chip means that this actually has quite the decent video quality, especially paired with later revisions of the VIC-2 chip. And I don't see anything obvious wrong on this this computer. There are some corrosion though on the legs of the power switch. Yeah, there are some corrosions on the modulator input also. You know that these switches here, they break one of the lines of the 5 volt and they break one of the lines of the AC voltage. And the AC voltage is powering the VIC-2 chips in these computers. So actually a bad contact in these power switches can also give a black screen. And I don't know if it's the climate or if there is other things, but in USA and videos, some of them from the Germany and some of them from, yeah, mostly from America and USA, everything that is wrong with their C64s are related to the PLA chip. The PLA chip is a decoder chip that actually does a lot of the memory and I/O handling on C64 and makes all the special bank switching control signals. And I don't often change these. When I got on to fixing C64 again after a pause of about 15 years since I last took up this as a hobby, I saw some videos and I read about it, and so I actually stocked up on replacement chips for the PLA, and I've only used one of them. The big culprit that is breaking on these when I fix them is PCBs. It's the 6526s. It's the CPU, the SID chip of course, that breaks with old age, and memory chips. Memory chips and Commodore most marked TTL chips, that is 74 chips that is replaced by Commodore, yeah, their equivalent chips. And do we have some of them here? This is NEC, and you have Texas Instruments, Mitsubishi. Yeah, I don't see any MUS, and I didn't expect it to be on this computer that is so new as this one. Yeah, but now I'm just yabbing away, so I'm going to go and clean this board with some pressurized air. Yes, back from the hurricane, and this cooling paste is really old and hardened, so I'm going to clean that off. It doesn't do anything good anyway, and I could of course have washed this board too, but I do think this will be adequate, and I don't want to put any moisture in this if I don't have to. So the next thing, I will be connecting this up just to a monitor to check what's going on and measure the voltages. And for that I'm going to use my own power supply, and I will get back to the power supplies afterwards. Yes, now the unit is cleaned, and yeah, I have not taken off the gunk here yet, but will do. And I'm just going to do some tests. And I have the dead test cartridge and I have the diagnostic cartridge, and I'm first going to try with the diagnostic cartridge. It seems to stay all black, so I will just try out some basic measurements here. And you can see that this C64 has the cover all the way back here for shielding. That's not normal on the Norwegian ones to have this soldered shielding, but anyway, it is what it is. And anyway, I'm just going to measure something about the clock, so I can just hook the ground up here, and I normally make these sketches so I can make notes, and I have these 2 sheets with all the pinouts of all the chips that I normally just print out and make notes on. So I'm just going to check the clock, and the clock is entering to the 65. Then on pin 1, why doesn't this react? Is this not a good ground? And I do some basic power measurements here. Like so, should be 5 volts. And we have 491, it's good enough. So it seems like it's getting power. But I will also check if I turn this off and I find a good ground point. Yeah, this is a good ground point. So I take that. And I take the 65 10 CPU. Yeah, you have a clock in on pin 1. Like so. So now we're starting measuring, and I turn it off. I put in the diagnostic cartridge, and I can continue to look at this, and it does have a steady 1 MHz clock, nothing strange. And it's black screen still. I will test the dead cartridge eventually. I'm just going to measure on the data pins on the 6510. And those you have from here looks normal, looks normal, looks normal, looks normal, 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 and that was the last one. And then you have the address bus, and that you have all the way down here. Not the 6th first, but you start on 7. Yeah. They all look normal. Yeah, this is also looking normal, even though they have a somewhat abnormal shape. They are more triangular in shape, some of these, but that's quite okay. And we have the rest up here. Yes. And you have the clock out. Yeah. So everything on this machine is actually running. It's nothing wrong with what is happening, and it's always displaying a black screen. So normally at this point, if this has been an Adrian Black or even other American users video, I would have thought the PLA was dead, but I'm not so sure yet. As I've said, I've almost never changed the PLA. So why this is the big point somewhere, I'm not sure. But in Norway at least, it almost never happens, at least on my C64s, and I run through some during the year. Now it's the dead test. Oh, and the dead test is actually showing a picture. It's testing the 0 page, stack page, screen RAM. Now we see the cursors going through the screen RAM. This is not going to stop now, because the rest of this is also RAM chips, and it's the same RAM, so you can have the color ROM is not making anything stop. So I do think that that this is C64, and it had a totally black screen. I hate to say this, but this is something that many people would desolder PLA for. I'm actually going to desolder the kernel ROM, because I do think that is the kernel ROM that is bad. This test actually needs the kernel to work. It doesn't need the basic to work. Yeah, now that the screen is blank, but I think that's okay. It will just continue and loop in the test, I think. Yeah, we even have the SID test running good. But I do think that the dead test cartridge only tests the 4 first kilobytes of memory, as it acts in this special mode to be able to bypass the kernel. Yeah, it's running the same test again. So for sure we know that basically this C64 is running. It has all the clocks, it has all the data lines, everything looks normal, but the kernel is the one to fear here. And I'm going to wash away some gunk here. Just using some isopropanol alcohol, it will do the trick, I think. I have to wash away all of these and apply some new thermal grease before I send this away again. I will wash away the rest of the gunk afterwards. This one, U4, should be the kernel ROM, and you can see this is version 03. I probably have some new chips available for this. I even have some older ones that is not version 3, but there are several YouTubers that has demonstrated the differences and the bugs that are fixed by the different kernel versions. But then I do have to do the desoldering of this complete shield. I will solder it back, because this is doing wonders to the RF noise that the C64 is making. And when I was a kid, I was not allowed to use my C64 because it was making so much noise. And I had one of the first C64s that's ever come to Norway, and it had no shielding whatsoever inside. So I made shielding inside the case with copper, and I made a top and a bottom for this with copper to actually take the shielding. And I also shielded extra the cable from the computer to the TV, and eventually I was allowed to use the computer when someone else was watching the news, but that was some modifications to be able to do that. So this is the one we are going to desolder, but first we are going to, this is not going to be any use of, the desoldering gun will be of no use here. I think the best thing to do is just use heat and my normal trusty old Weller soldering station on this. Because what we have to do is heat this and bend the legs. Yeah, that was not good. I need to have something to put in between here that I could pry this open with. Melting the soldering just fine, but I am a bit worrisome about heating this too much. I do have these bigger tabs here, but that has to be a screwdriver. Of course, the bigger the screwdriver, the more difficult it would be, but this worked out just fine. I do think I have only one more to go, because there is one here, and I think I've gone all over the board. Not overboard, but over the board. This was not a easy one. Let's see if everything just falls apart. Oh, of course it's... Oh, that one just has broken off. It was not soldered there. Yeah. Then it's away, and the original blue paper is also in place. And now we can see what we have here. This is a bit other stencil that I'm used to. This has, yeah, it's a yellowish green gold PCB, but I've never seen actually this exact version with this kind of pattern on the soldering mask. I've not seen that before. But for desoldering, I'm just going to mark the IC so I am not doing any mistakes, because this one is the one going out. And here I can choose to use my my desoldering gun. I think that will be the safest option, especially since I want to test this ship afterwards to see if it's really defunct when we get things desoldered. I'm going to test the desoldering station to see how that goes. It does heat up. It's my Hakko 301, and I do have ordered some new tips for this, but there seems to be, yeah, some kind of delivery time on these. And there are some C64 boards where I'm not able to make this work very good, and I will try to just hit this with some small amount of solder to check if it is the gun that does not suck enough, or if it is the solder on the board that is not melting as it should. So an easy test for that is just to apply some solder. And I do think it's the suction in this one. And I'm not totally satisfied with this. It's very good. It's when it's working, it's very good, but it often gets stuck and doesn't suck good enough for various reasons. And yeah, let's try again. Yes. This board actually has very little solder on it. When you desolder chips on a C64 and I wiggle this around, it actually has, yeah, what should I say, two functions. One is that when I'm wiggling like this, I make sure that this is heated all the way around. And 2, these pins are often bent over to one side. So when I do this on these thin legs, I even them out so they be standing in the middle of the hole. I just have one that has some solder left on the side. And it still has. When there is a hole through the solder, it's very difficult to get it to apply suction good enough. So I just reapply some solder to actually get the hole tightened up so that it will suck like so. And ideally they should just fall out and make no more fuss. But this is not going to happen today. I do see there is some solder left on this and this on this side. So then it's the desoldering station number 2, the hot air one, to the rescue. And this I need some power. Yeah, I should have picked another nozzle with some narrower nozzle, but I think it will be okay. And I will not put so much pressure on this, but I will stick this in so I'll be able to tell when it's getting loose. Yeah, and this is what's happening when amateurs is making a video. They put the wrong thing in the focus of the picture. Fell on one side. I wonder what's keeping that now. Yeah, there was one sticky leg. I will clean everything of this up with some desoldering wick. The good stuff with built-in flux. Yeah, and I have to check this visually to see that I have not broken any traces or whatever. And this actually looks quite good. Not lifted anything on this side, and the vias also look good. And on this side there is almost no connection, but the via sounds seems good. So then it's to find a 24-pin socket. I have the choice about this machine socket. That could be good if the old chip was going in. But I also have this double swipe socket, and this is actually an old one from back in the day. This is something that I actually had since my Commodore 64 repairing days. I found one bag with 20 of these some months ago. And let's see, there is probably one. Yeah, it came out here. There was one hole with a little tiny bit of solder left. Yeah, make sure that everything is even. Like so. Yeah, I don't need to adjust this because it was so tight in the grip that I don't expect anything here to fall out. closer look on that. Yeah, it actually seems quite nice. Maybe some isopropanol afterwards, but first I'm going to find a kernel ROM and we are actually going to test this. I actually have run out of my version 3 of these chips as new on shelf. So you actually have a new, totally unused, new on shelf version 2 of this. And this is a rare one. It's from month 11 in 1983, I think. Or maybe it's week 11. It should work just fine, even though it's an version 2. It's only some ROM routines that is changed. And just check that I don't have anything underneath here that can short anything. Like so. And I connect some power. Like so. And I try to just fire it up. And blank screen. That was not accepted. Yeah, sorry, here I actually lost some footage, but it was just me measuring out all the same again as I did last time to check that the data and address buses was working as they should, and they really were. So I tried to turn it on and off again, and that's where this story continues. I do think it's just some bad contacts in this socket. I said it was an old socket, so I'm just going to put this chip in one more time. I don't think there is anything wrong. I think everything just looks as it should. And those nice long legs. I of course have to find a 03 chip afterwards, but I am confident that this will start now. Yes, and have you seen? It's totally working, 3, 8 and 11 bytes free, and nice video output. So here we actually have a working Commodore 64, but I do have to find another kernel chip. Otherwise, I do have to make an EEPROM and an adapter to make this fit. This EEPROM is the 2764, and I actually have leaps and bones of them, so the best thing would probably be to make just a replacement chip on this. So we just have to see, but if I find an original, I will put it in. Yeah, I think I'm going to opt for this one. This is just a short reminder of how you do converting of these PROMs. And this is burned now with an image, and this is the 28 pin device, and this is how you make the adapter. Yeah, I just soldered up this contraption here using this EEPROM and a socket. And when you are using this way of making adapters, you actually are going to solder direct on the EEPROM, and you also have to bend some of the legs of the EEPROM, so it will not be easy to reprogram it if you need be. But I run into some problems. I don't know if there are some wires or there is some other stuff, but you won't see it good here in this video capture that is enclosed, because there actually was some white noise with the letters, and it did not show up on this capture where I only filmed of the LCD screen. But when I tried this, it seemed like small white specks that was coming through. So I am actually going to solder up another adapter. I got this one to work, but there was some noise in the picture when I was doing things, and I do think that this room is is marginally working, but it should be a really fast one. This is 150 nanoseconds, so maybe it's too fast. But I soldered together this tower here, and now it actually works as it should. But I can't leave this in here like so on this computer. So even though now it's fixed, I do have to find another chip. I can't put this beautiful 250466 board with a 0.2 room, and I do have to find another C64 when I can borrow a chip like this and put this tower inside a bread bin case instead. I can make it marginally lower by this one, but yeah, I'm not so sure. I could of course solder it direct to the board with this adapter too and omit the socket. Then I would save a bit, about 4-5 millimeters, 6 millimeters maybe. But you also have to take into consideration these capacitors over here. I would have to move and prepare them a bit if I was to make this much lower. So I'm going to find a working version 3 room and put in here. So I soldered this huge tower here, and let's see how much this actually builds on top of a normal IC. I can take this in centimeters, and it's actually 18 millimeters on top. And that means that I can't fit this on top without destroying anything. This is just about 15 mil. But I have this one, and this is a board that I repaired back in 28 of 1st 22, and this was part of my C64 Resurrection series. And this is a 407 board, and it's my all socketed one. I put every chip except the 556 and the 7474 flip-flop in the clock circuit here. I already borrowed the VIC chip here to do some test on another computer with a very dark picture. And since everything in here is already socketed, I'm going to take this version 3 ROM chip and just use that. This is a newer chip, so I do think it will be as good as brand new part. And when I sit at my bench here, I always use my ankle anti-static wrist wrap. This chip is made in, it's very difficult to read this date code, but at least it's the right chip. So I'm going to use that, and this is one that has not been desoldered. You see the legs are not cut. If you compare that with the one that was here, so you can see that the legs are much shorter. So this will fit nicely in a socket. So that is what I'm going to use here. I'm going to take out this tower, even though it's fully functioning. Sorry. Like so. And then we see if everything works as it should. And of course it does. So here we have a fully working C64. I'm only going to put this put this together now and get it shipped back to the owner. So before I do that, I must reapply some better heat. This compound here, silic gel something. when you rub paper against something like this, you cause static electricity, so it's very wise to have this on anti-static mat when you do this kind of rubbing. This was exactly the thing you did back in the day when you was making static electricity back in your physics lab on the elementary school. Yes, like that. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I mount this back on, I'm going to make this fit better down on the ships. And people say a lot of bad things about this, but this is actually quite a good heatsink. People can say what they want, but taking this away and just putting a heatsink on every ship, probably it will be good enough, but at least this works. Also see that I did not bother with the CIA chips, because this is going on like so. So they have the room chips, they have the CPU, and they have the SID, the PLA, and the video chip. So this works only on this kind of motherboard. But before I mount this, I have to solder this bottom shield back on. Yeah, and I know a lot of you say don't bother, but I have heard, and you can hear it closely on every FM radio, and you can see it on every TV set, the RF radiation that is coming out of these units. And there is a reason why this was put on back in the day. And that reason has not changed. What have changed is that a lot of you don't care because you don't use the radio waves anymore. But a lot of people actually use them and depends on the radio system, not only to be heard but to communicate and transmit messages and so on. So we do have to put these kind of things back on to make sure that they comply with the rules. I think just taking them off and seeing that the unit works, that's a very narrow way to look at things, because there is a lot of people that are radio amateurs and do other kinds of important stuff and are very dependent on the radio waves to be doing what they should. And this unit here, it makes noise from about 8 MHz and down to just some several hundred kilohertz, and also of course on the frequency of 15 kilohertz where the video sync frequency are. But the reason why this is making so much noise up in the higher frequency is because of the resonance frequencies that this will be putting out. That is the twice and the fourth and the 8 and the 16 times of the ground frequency. And this runs on a 2 MHz clock really, and a 1 MHz because they are shifting on every flank and sending out pulses both on the bottom and on the top of the signal. There is making transitions in this, so you actually have noise that is 2 MHz on a 1 MHz system. Sounds like gibberish, but that actually is the truth if you are looking to this with a spectrum analyzer with a good antenna placed nearby. This top here is just screwed on, so that's okay. And could we have done this repair from the top? Yeah, we could. We actually did this a lot back in the day when it was only memory chips. Then we just used our pliers like so. We just cut the legs, desoldered every leg from the top, cut off the pins of the memory chip so it doesn't pass straight through the board. Yeah, so it's the difference between this length and this length. We put the new chip in from the top, and we actually soldered it back in place without removing the motherboard at all from the C64. So it's possible. This makes a better repair, of course it does. We can wash away all the flux and other stuff, but that was how it was done back in the day. We didn't have the time, we only got paid a fixed amount from Commodore to do repairs, so there was no time to do it any other way if you wanted to earn some money on this, or at least get paid for some of your time. Because back in the day, as I've told before, most of the faults that we had were actually due to static electricity and misuse. People was using C2Ns, cassette players, pulling them in and out while the system was running. They was using the ground wire to touch the reset pin on the user port to reset the system and touched some of the other points. Often they pushed the 9-volt rail and blow the fuse or something happened. And they also had this fault when they was pulling in and out joysticks. Then the CIAs could blow, or the 4066. Or people was just pulling the power into the video socket. That's another no-go that actually happened back in the day. Then most of the things were blown. But memory chips, they was bad back in the day. CPUs is connected direct to the cassette port, that I've changed a lot of, and CIAs. And of course you also had the SID chips. The first revisions of the SID chips, they are analog devices, and the process of making them was not, it was not optimal, to put it at least. So we did have some bad zone chips, but a lot of people didn't know that they had bad SIDs. They was just running their games happily, and if you compared it to a Spectrum or a TV game or some other stuff they had back in the day, it sounded good for every one of them, even though it was bad or missing a voice and so on. So that came later, when the games like Skate or Die or the others that has samples in them, then a lot of people started complaining about missing voices, missing samples or other stuff. And of course it also was the mismatch between the 65 and 85 revisions of the chips. And the one that actually was off from the start, the one on the TV modulator or RF modulator, like so. Yeah, then everything should be ready to put on the heatsink. Yeah, and I have this compound here. Oi, that was way too much. This is not giving you a better heat spread or anything like people seems to think. This is meant to just fill the small gaps and the inaccuracies that is in the top of any metal surface or on any ship surface. So it's to fill the gaps so that you get a larger area to do the thermal transfers than you would do without this compound. And that is the same why you are using the silicone braces that you also put in between, because the silicone, when put under pressure, it's able to fill the same gaps. But this is better than silicone mats, and if you don't need to insulate this electrically, you just use the compound. Feels nicely in place, and this is a very good version of the C64 case and housing. Yeah, and then it was this one, and you can see that you might have to do some adjusting on this one to make it fit when you have put this in a socket, because it will be a bit higher and have a different angle. But I do think that this will be okay now. This was socket and this was socket, so yeah, just like so. Yeah, then we're got the shield back in and the keyboard connector. And we have to, this one should be put in place here, and one of the screws when we took this apart was yeah, oh, I made a mistake again. Strange when you don't do something for a while and you think you got it right and it looks so good, but then this obvious mistakes. Yes, like so. And then it was the 3mm machine screws. Where one of them was missing when we started. And now I have to take this out again. I forgot one thing, and on the lid you have to put in the lead here. So this actually has quite a long lead on these flat C64s, and they should be put like that, and this back in again. So now this should come okay. I actually didn't do much work on the flat C64s back in the day. When I did this, it mostly was bread bins. In Norway was quite early adapters of the Amiga, so it was sold a lot of C64s, of course, but I don't think they were as much used as the bread box when they came out back in the day. So a lot of the white C64s in Norway has got little or no use. Yeah, we'll do a test. Red power light, and I got the picture. So now it's just the 3 last screws and we should be good to go. Yeah, so then this 64 is going back home, but I do have some unfinished work here, and I'm going to disconnect this and put that away. And we are going to look at the power supplies that was in this box. There was one of these whites from 87, so it's quite a new one. And since these 64s here, I think mainly was made in 86, this looks like something that was just shipped together afterwards. But I'm going to test these power supplies to check how good they are. And then I need this contraption here. This is my my resistor box, where I have these resistor potentiometers that is high. Yeah, they can take about 50 watts, I think it was. And I'm going to show you. This is 5.1 ohms, and this is 10 ohms. And I'm going to use these ones to test this power supply, because you have the 5 volt rail that's supposed to deliver on this one 1.7 amps, and you have the 1 amp on the 9 volt. So if I take and say that it's approximately 10 volts AC, and I put it on a 10 ohm resistor, that should be 1 amp. And I put this 5 volt resistor on this rail, and it should be about 1 amp. So if I just connect it like this, I'm going to draw 2 amps from this box, and it should be able to take that without problems. It should have a lot of rest of capacity left. So I'm just going to find my test leads for this, and here it is. I'm plugging the power supply here, and I have the AC voltage on these green ones and the 5 volt on the other rail. So I'm just going to find some cables here. I'm normally very bad at color schemes and stuff, but this time I at least got the green ones good. And I also need 2 other wires. I do have a blue one, so black one and red one, and like so. This is not totally accurate, of course, but it will give you a gist. And also with this high power draw, you do have some loss in the cables and some change in all these plugs, of course. But mostly this should be what we need here. And I plug in this power supply, and I'm going to measure here what I got first. This is the I have to make it like so. 4.98 volt with the 1 amp power draw, and alternate voltage 10.12. I can smell some, but this is getting hot. And I can also check here with this my El Cheapo oscilloscope. To check if there is any ripple on the 5 volt. If I just lift this a bit, I will be able to put this like so and measure like so, and I push the auto. And you can see almost no ripple at all, and that means that the capacitor in this probably is good. So I don't think this power supply has seen much use. It probably will be good for years to come. But as we do know, these capacitors can break, and these regulators will break when the capacitors are gone. So, but for now, this power supply is just good. But this Commodore owner has taken good precautions and has actually bought this one. I've never seen one of these before in real life. It has a 3D printed case, I think, and it's rated here for 9 volt AC and all the other stuff, but it doesn't say so much about power draw. It only states the voltages, but it will be able to supply a C64, so I do think we can just try it with the same load as the other one and see if it performs as good as a good old power brick. And this has this cable. I suppose it's the same in both ends, and a nice thick cable that I like, because a lot of loss is in these long cables. On these you lose about half a volt when you have the full power draw, I've seen in the plugs and stuff. Yeah, nice and tight. And we do have here a power switch. Okay, oh, I have not, sorry, I did not plug this in, I just put the cable this way. Now I plugged it in, it's stated C64 here on the display. Touch sensor to toggle screen, 4.83 volt it states. Let's check that. It only gives us the voltage, nothing more, nothing amperage, not anything. But as for now, this should be drawing the same as we did from the old one. And I can take the AC voltage first. Yeah, it's lower than we had on the C64, and that's quite good because this should be about 9 volt, but it's almost 10, so it's about the same. And I can turn this around so you get it the same way. And the only 4.62 volts, so it's actually kind of low when you are drawing 1 amp. I don't like that, because 1 amp is what an old bread box is really drawing. So in my opinion, this is not the best power supply. But it's drawing now 1 amp, and we measured this when I did the power supply videos, and it's about 800 or 900 amps when you do a good old bread bin with all the RAM chips and you have a cartridge inserted. It's about 1 amp draw. So this should be able to deliver 5 volt at that rail, and that is a misunderstanding that the power supply from the Commodore 64 should only deliver 5 volt, because it doesn't. It delivers 5.1 volt to make up for the loss in the cables and stuff. But it's good probably, but I'm also going to check if we do have some did I turn this off, or is it out of battery? Oh, it's out of juice. That's I can see if I can get a good measurement before it runs out. Oh no, I did not. I have to find a power supply to make this on again, I think. Let's see if I got some more juice in this now. Still low battery, but yeah, it's about good the same on Ripple, I think. So the power supply at least is stable. It gives a good stable supply, but as I said, this 4.61 volt when you are drawing 1 amp, that's a bit too much. And I can, of course, I will disconnect from this end here the AC and check if I'm not drawing this much AC, will it be able to deliver more? It should not. It's about the same. If I draw about the same amount of current that you have to expect from a very modern bread box, not the 466 ones, but the almost newer ones with old 85 chips, you will have about a half amp on the 5 volt rail. And it's still 4.8, and that is again a bit low. So even though they market this as a high quality unit, I would have liked this to be 5 volt when you had that power draw. 4.6 volt. That makes it about 4.4 volt when this comes to the ICs that is closest to the power supply. And that actually means if you are running your C64 with some more cartridges and do have some extra load on this, you are going to run into a situation where the system can be unstable, because all the chips that is in the C64 is rated for an absolute 4.5 volt minimum. And when you expose them and run them of 4.5 volt, it will probably work, but you are reaching an uncertain territorium where the chips, when they should output a high, are closely, dangerously close to 2.4 volt. That is the lower limit of a logical high. So I really would have liked this power supply that should be state-of-the-art aftermarket to output 5.1 volt on the plug, because the plug, the connector and the power switch are all going to make a small power drop, and especially in some old C64, and 5.1 volt on the plug, that is totally acceptable. So, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again in my next video. When that will be, I'm not so sure, but hopefully just in a couple of days. So, until then, take care.